The strange thing about a house after a funeral is how normal it tries to sound. Plates touching the sink, a chair sliding across wood, someone clearing their throat in another room. All the regular noises pretending nothing just changed forever. That afternoon, the whole place smelled faintly like lilies, funeral flowers, sweet in a way that almost makes your stomach turn. I stood in the kitchen staring at a mug of coffee that had already gone cold. Honestly, I couldn't remember pouring it. My name is Lillian Ashford. I am 28 years old. My father had been buried 3 hours earlier. People kept saying he was a great man, a brilliant businessman, founder of Ashford Freight and Logistics. The kind of man who built something real, trucks, warehouses, contracts moving across half the West Coast. To me, he was just Dad. For most of my life, it had been the two of us. My mother died when I was 9. After that, my father and I ate a lot of quiet dinners at this same kitchen table. Frozen lasagna, bad takeout. He worked too much, but he always asked about school. Then when I was 14, he married Victoria. She was elegant, calm, polite in that careful way that makes you feel like you're standing on someone else's carpet. A year later, Sebastian was born, my half-brother. He grew up loud, expensive hobbies, fast friends. My father loved him, but he never trusted him with the business. I guess I didn't understand how much that mattered, because the real trouble didn't start when my father died. It started 2 weeks later, in a quiet office downtown, when the lawyer opened my father's will. 2 weeks later, we sat in a quiet office downtown. The carpet smelled like old paper and coffee that had been sitting too long. Victoria sat beside me, perfect posture, hands folded. Sebastian leaned back like the chair belonged to him. Across the desk was my father's attorney, Richard Halstead, mid-60s maybe, gray hair, calm voice, the kind of man who had watched families fall apart for a living. He opened the folder slowly. Henry updated the will last spring. He said. Sebastian snorted. Great. Let's get this over with. Halstead didn't react, just adjusted his glasses. The estate is valued at approximately $13,600,000. Victoria's eyes flickered for a second. Barely noticeable. Halstead kept reading. The primary asset is Ashford Freight and Logistics. That was the company. My father's whole life. Sebastian leaned forward now. Yeah, obviously. Halstead looked directly at me. 65% controlling shares are transferred to Lillian Ashford. Silence. Sebastian laughed. A short, ugly sound. Excuse me, Halstead continued calmly. 20% to Victoria Ashford. Victoria didn't move. And 15% to Sebastian Ashford. Sebastian's chair scraped the floor. That's wrong. Halstead shook his head. It isn't. Sebastian turned toward me. You knew about this. No, I said quietly. Victoria finally spoke, her voice soft, almost warm. Henry must have believed Lillian needed security. Sebastian stared at her, then at me. His jaw tightened. Dad wouldn't leave the company to her. Halstead closed the folder. He already did. Sebastian pushed back from the desk. For the first time since the funeral, I felt something shift in that room. Power. And the worst part was, I swear I didn't even want it. But Victoria was watching me now. Carefully. Things in the house started changing fast after the will reading. Too fast. Victoria said it was about efficiency, new routines, new staff schedules, that kind of thing. Honestly, it felt more like the house was being cleared out. 3 days later, Martha Collins was standing in the hallway with a cardboard box. Martha had worked for my family 17 years, long enough to know where every plate went and exactly how my father liked his coffee. I saw the box and said, "What's going on?" Martha gave a small smile. "The tired kind. Your stepmother says it's time for me to retire." Victoria's voice floated from the dining room. "It's for the best. Martha." You deserve rest." Martha didn't answer her. She looked at me instead. "You got a minute?" "Miss Lillian." We stepped into the kitchen. The place smelled faintly like lemon cleaner. She lowered her voice. "I wasn't planning to leave like this." "I know," I said. Her hands were shaking a little. "Your father didn't trust people easily," she said. "Yeah," I said. "I know that too." Martha squeezed my wrist. He knew something wasn't right. I frowned. About what she looked toward the doorway, making sure Victoria wasn't standing there. Then she leaned closer. "Don't trust her." I tried to laugh it off. "Martha, Victoria's been in this house 14 years. Her eyes didn't soften. "That's exactly why I'm telling you." She picked up her box and walked out the front door. Victoria was standing at the top of the stairs watching. The first night Victoria brought the tea, it didn't seem strange at all. She set the cup beside my plate like she'd done it 100 times before. The kitchen lights were low. The tea smelled faintly like honey. "Chamomile," she said softly. "Your father used to drink it when he couldn't sleep." I hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Thanks." Victoria pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. "You've barely rested since the funeral," she added. "Anyone would be struggling." Sebastian walked in then, phone in his hand. He looked at me for a moment and frowned. "You look wiped out." "I'm fine," I said. He shrugged. "You forgot the operations call this afternoon." Victoria gave him a quick look. "She's grieving." "Sebastian." Then she turned back to me. "Drink it while it's warm." I took a sip. It tasted mild, herbal, nothing unusual. The next night she brought it again. "You should make this a routine," she said. "Sleep matters more than anything right now." After a few days, the tea became normal, almost automatic. But small things started slipping. I misplaced my phone twice in one morning. I walked into the office downtown and forgot the name of one of the warehouse managers for a few seconds longer than I should have. Sebastian noticed. "You sure you're ready to run the company like this?" "I'm handling it," I said. He shook his head slowly. Victoria stepped between us again. Calm as always. "She just needs time," she said. Then she looked at me carefully. "Maybe you should step back from work for a little while. Step back, just until you're thinking clearly again." Later that night, she brought the tea once more. I held the cup in my hands for a moment before drinking. Something about the routine was starting to feel a little too deliberate. It happened late one night. I was halfway down the hallway when I heard Sebastian's voice coming from the study. The door was half closed. He sounded angry. "No," he said sharply. "I told you I'm handling it." A pause. Then his voice rose. "You think I don't understand the numbers I stopped walking. Honestly, I should have kept going. Houses like ours are full of conversations you're not meant to hear." But something in his tone made me stay. "I said the money is coming," he snapped. "Just give me another week." Silence. Then a chair scraped hard against the floor. "I'll fix it," he said again. The call ended. A minute later, I heard his footsteps heading upstairs. When the house went quiet, I pushed the study door open. The room smelled faintly of whiskey. The desk lamp was still on. Sebastian's laptop wasn't open, but a thick envelope sat beside it. The return address was from a financial recovery firm in Las Vegas. I shouldn't have opened it. I did anyway. Inside were several printed statements: sports betting accounts, online trading losses, personal loans. The numbers ran down the page until they reached the total: $1,800,000. My stomach tightened. Sebastian owed nearly $2 million. I put the papers back exactly where I found them. Then Martha's warning came back to me. Don't trust her. The tea every night. Victoria pushing me to step away from the company. And suddenly, the pattern behind everything became impossible to ignore. The next night, Victoria brought the tea again. Same calm voice. Same careful smile. You look exhausted. Lillian? I took the cup. Long week, I said. Sebastian was leaning against the counter, scrolling through his phone. He looked up briefly. You missed the logistics call with Bellevue this afternoon. I rescheduled it. He shook his head. You forgot it. Victoria rested a light hand on my shoulder. Grief does strange things to memory, she said gently. Then she nodded toward the cup. Drink it while it's warm. I took a small sip, just enough so neither of them kept watching. Later that night, I carried the cup upstairs and poured the rest into a small glass bottle I kept in my desk. Up close, the tea smelled a little different. Still herbal, but faintly bitter underneath. The next morning, I drove into Seattle. My father used to see a concierge physician there for annual executive exams. Discreet place. Quiet office. The doctor listened while I explained. You think someone is giving you medication without telling you, he asked. I don't know what I think. I said. I just want to know what's in the tea. He studied the bottle for a moment. I'll send it to a toxicology lab, he said. 2 days later, he called. The sample contains a mild sedative. He explained, nothing dangerous by itself. I stayed quiet, but taken regularly. He continued, it could make someone seem forgetful, slow, unfocused. I sat there holding the phone. They weren't trying to harm me. They were trying to make me look like I couldn't think straight. And once people believed that, control of the company would be easy to take. Victoria brought the tea again that evening. She placed the cup in front of me the same way she always did. You should try to sleep earlier tonight, she said gently. I'll try. I replied. Sebastian was already sitting at the kitchen counter, flipping through emails on his phone. He looked up. You missed another call from the Tacoma managers. I'll speak with them tomorrow. He gave a short laugh. You've been saying that all week. Victoria pulled out a chair and sat across from me. Her voice stayed calm, almost sympathetic. Lillian, we're starting to worry about you. I'm managing, I said. Sebastian shook his head. No, you're barely keeping up. He slid a folder across the table. Look at this. I opened it. Several printed pages. Legal language. A prepared document. At the bottom was a space for my signature. Delegation of authority. Sebastian said. Temporary. Victoria nodded slightly. It would allow Sebastian to handle day-to-day company decisions for a little while. So he runs the company, I said quietly. Not permanently. She replied, just until you're feeling clear-headed again. Sebastian leaned forward. If the board sees you struggling like this, they'll step in anyway. I rubbed my temples like my head hurt. You think I can't do the job? Victoria answered gently. We think you need help. I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I closed the folder. Fine, I said slowly. Sebastian looked surprised. You'll sign it. Yes, I said. But I want Halstead there. Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly. Our lawyer, I'd rather do it properly. Sebastian grinned. Works for me. I slid the folder back toward him. I'll sign it in his office. Victoria watched my face carefully. Then she smiled. Of course. Later that night, she brought the tea again. I drank it while she stood there. And in that moment, they both seemed completely certain the company was already theirs. Halstead's office smelled faintly of coffee and old paper, the same room where my father's will had been read 2 weeks earlier. Victoria sat beside me, posture perfect, hands folded in her lap, calm, controlled. Sebastian leaned back in his chair like he already owned the place. Richard Halstead looked at the three of us carefully. You asked for an urgent meeting, he said. Victoria spoke first. Lillian hasn't been herself since Henry passed. I kept my eyes on the desk. Sebastian slid the folder across the table. We think it's time she stepped back for a while. Halstead opened the document and read silently for a moment. Delegation of authority, he said. Temporary control of Ashford Freight and Logistics transferred to Sebastian. He looked at me. Lillian, do you understand what this document does? I do? Victoria's voice softened. She just needs time to recover. Halstead studied my face. And you agree to this? I nodded once. Sebastian exhaled and leaned back. See, this doesn't need to be dramatic. Halstead turned the papers toward me and placed a pen beside them. You can sign here. I picked up the pen, held it in my hand for a moment. Then I set it down. Sebastian frowned. What are you doing? I opened my bag and placed 3 items on the desk. First, a medical report. Second, a small voice recorder. Third, several printed financial statements. Halstead picked up the report first. His expression changed as he read. This is from a toxicology screening, he said slowly. Victoria's voice sharpened. That's absurd. Halstead continued reading. Repeated exposure to a mild sedative, capable of causing fatigue, slowed thinking, and confusion. The room went quiet. I turned the recorder on. Victoria's voice filled the office. She's getting weaker every day. Soon people will see she can't run the company. The recording ended. Sebastian stood abruptly. She manipulated that Halstead removed his glasses and folded them carefully. These documents raise very serious legal concerns, he said. Victoria didn't move. Sebastian's confidence drained from his face. Halstead closed the folder. I cannot proceed with this meeting, he said calmly. Not until this situation is formally reviewed. For the first time since my father died, the room felt like it had shifted back in my direction. After that meeting, things didn't explode the way people expect in stories. They unfolded slowly. Halstead sent copies of the medical report and the recording to the company's legal counsel and the board. An internal review started almost immediately. Victoria stopped speaking to me that same day. Sebastian moved out of the house within a week. The company lawyers began looking into the financial pressure around Sebastian's debts and the circumstances behind the power transfer document. Nothing dramatic. Just quiet investigations and long conversations behind closed doors. The house itself changed in a strange way. For the first time in years, it felt calm. One afternoon, a few weeks later, Martha Collins knocked on the front door. She stood there with a small suitcase in her hand. I wasn't sure if you'd still need help around here, she said. I smiled a little. I was hoping you'd come back. She stepped into the kitchen and looked around slowly. Your father would be relieved, she said. Ashford Freight stayed under my control. The company kept moving the way it always had, trucks on the road, warehouses running, contracts signed. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. But one thing did become clear. Sometimes the people who try hardest to take something from you are the same people who believed you would never fight back. And this time, I did.